Hello everyone, I am very much still a bit of a noob when it comes to playing Final Girl, but with a few games under my belt, I can give some tips to first-time players if you're just getting the game to the table. So let's jump into the list of 3 tips from a noob at Final Girl. Number 1 is don't do everything that you can. And what I mean by that is, in the first playthroughs, you're really sort of trying to push the limits all the time, and that can lead to a few problematic sort of things occurring to your Final Girl. You don't need to use all of your time in the action phase because you need to buy good cards in planning. But also, you don't need to spend every card you have. If there's a chance when you do your horror roll that it could go really bad for you if you don't, say, have some cards to discard to make one of those partial successes a success, then maybe it's not worth risk doing that yet. Alright, don't be scared for doing things, but don't risk too much. You don't have to do everything every round. Number 2, fear but don't fear the killer. What I mean by this is it's in the rules that you are perfectly able to move through the killer's zone and different things like that. Of course, you don't want to leave the Final Girl necessarily too close, certainly in the same sort of place, be that camp area or place on a ship or carnival site, wherever you may be. You don't necessarily want to be on the same space as the killer when it's about to be their turn, but you can move through them, round them, and different things. A lot of the time, towards the beginning of the game, they are going to be targeting you or a victim, and if there's a victim on your space, they'll go for them first. So just keep that in mind. Be fearful of the killer. They are sort of the main villain here, but certainly at the beginning of the game when they're not moving very far, they're only maybe doing one attack on their turn, well, if you've got a bodyguard or meat shield of a victim, you are a bit safer. So fear but don't fear the killer. And number 3 is that it is possible to be too prepared. And what I mean by that is, as with many games, there's a point in your sort of journey where you need to maybe stop saving victims and looting, but there's a time where you need to do less of that. Certainly looting, sort of searching even, when you're trying to find a good item. If you've got some good items, maybe you don't need to be doing that anymore. You've saved a load of victims, you've got your special ability, unless the killer is going to be getting them and getting their bloodlust levels up, well, maybe just leave them alone. You do need to take the killer out at some point. And the longer you take preparing, be that running around saving victims, going between search locations and searching, first of all, you've got the time to get there, use those cards, buying them from the market, between the planning phases and stuff. That takes a lot of time, and that means that the killer is going through that small deck of terror cards, which is potentially causing events, causing them to have more bloodlust, upgrading their sort of abilities, giving them maybe a dark ability, and it's just getting them closer towards their finale, their sort of special abilities. And it's meaning that when you get to fighting them, well, they're strong as well as you. So prepare a bit, get a cool item search-wise, save some victims, but just make sure you know your end goal is actually to take the killer out. For a bit of a bonus tip, I would say that while it's cool when you look at those feature film boxes with 5 or 6 whatever feature films, you are perfectly at home with an awesome game if you just get the starter set. That's a great starting off point as it allows you to play the game. There's a good amount of variety in there. Check out my review. I'll go through how just one box gives you a load of variety. And then when you've found you've enjoyed the game, yeah, go and get more. It adds so much more replayability and variety, but there's a load in just the core box. So maybe just starting off with the core box and the one feature film, such as in the starter set where you get Hans and the camp happy trails. Well, that's a good starting point for you to experience the game first. So they're my tips from me, a noob at Final Girl. What would you say are your tips for first time players? Leave them in the comment section below, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a great day gaming.